the rationale. Why do we want to think about using digital technology to enhance the tourism sector, where the opportunities are, how some of the other countries in the world have started to adopt these tools in order to drive their own tourist sector. What we're trying to look at now, and I'm going to come back to this slide, is really where is it that we want to focus in Ghana? And from our assessment, from what we've done, we've had the privilege of speaking to, I think, together with our partners at CDC, probably 60 to 70 different stakeholders in the ecosystem. We've looked at quite significant amounts of data, both particularly looking at online data, but also government data sets and other types of data sets available in the sector, to try and identify where are the key priorities. In any country, in any sector, that we have finite resources. We have a limited amount of money and we have a limited amount of people in order to live on these things. So what I'm going to talk about now is really, from our perspective, from what we've seen, where would we recommend Ghana prioritizes its limited and finite resources to achieve the maximum possible impact. And so this is really what a key part of what we're talking about on this slide is that from what we've seen, there has been significant success in the promotion of Ghana globally. It is a well-established, well-known potential destination. But where the shortfall is happening is tourists are interested in coming to Ghana, but when they then look at where to stay, what to do in Ghana, that online presence is lacking. And so building that out more significantly is really where there's significant opportunity to grow and to capture tourists. What we start to see is that when travelers are looking at where they want to visit, typically they would have a short list of maybe 5 or 10 different locations they may want to go. What ultimately locks in their decision of where they want to go is where it's easy to book, where they can find specific activities that appeal to them in terms of what they're going to do when they get there. And as I say, that is where other countries are moving ahead of where Ghana currently sits. So what we're looking at here in the practical actions is, okay, so how can we start to address some of these challenges? And how can we do it in a proportionate way, given where the sector currently is, and matching both where there is critical infrastructure or sort of core enabler investment required, together with the adoption of digital tools and the use of data to apply those investments and to apply those actions in an informed and thoughtful way. So we have identified 3 main focus areas. And as I said, this is not a comprehensive list of all the things that could be done or that could support the development of the sector, but from our assessment, the 3 main areas where we can see particular opportunities for marginal impact in the growth of the sector. So the first is discussing how we can match Ghana's digital presence to its physical assets. As we've spoken about, as I think everyone in this project, in this room is really passionate about, Ghana has incredible assets for tourists that appeal to tourists to come and visit. But we need the online presence to match what we have in person so that people choose Ghana because of all the great things they like to do here. We then need to also look at how can we better use data to inform decision making, both in the public sector and the private sector. And then lastly, how do we encourage innovation? I think what we see is that whilst there is a lot of passion for the sector in this room and more broadly across the sector, there is real opportunities to tap into innovative ideas, to encourage new graduates from universities, people with new ideas to enter the sector, to come in with innovative ideas, to develop new types of business models that can drive the sector forward, both in terms of bringing new ideas and demonstration cases, showing what we can do more broadly across the sector, but also thinking of bringing in new tools and new systems that can unlock opportunities for the sector as a whole. We're all familiar with Airbnb, right? Airbnb is precisely that. It's an innovation, it's a global innovation that has completely altered the way in which particularly the hospitality or accommodation sector operates across the world. And in Ghana, as I think we showed in the previous workshop, the growth in Airbnb is extraordinary over the last couple of years. Grown from 1 to 2,000 listings in 2019, 2020, through to more than 10,000 currently. And it's significantly increased the number of beds available for tourists in the country, and there's significant uptake. That's an example of innovation that's transformed the market and has enabled a number of new players to enter the space and to offer additional opportunities, additional experiences. It comes with challenges as well, like it comes with increased competition for traditional accommodation providers. Let's not make any bones about that. But realistically, if we want to drive the sector as a whole forward and create growth opportunities across the sector, Ghana does need to match what is happening globally and some of the best practice globally and adopting some of those innovations. Airbnb is an example of that. So we look into focus area 1, looking at how to match digital presence to physical assets. From the many discussions we had with all of you and many others across the sector, there's a number of key reasons that we've identified in terms of why digital technology solutions are not as adopted as they may be. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is this trade-off between perceived benefits of adopting digital tools versus the perceived costs. And many of those are really valid. So we see, for example, a high cost of card payments, both in terms of distrust with potential fraud, as well as the actual cost that is incurred when you have to pay merchant discount rates on card payments to Mastercard or Visa. But the reality is that tourists, when they travel, expect to be able to pay with a card. That is how they transact. We've seen a significant transition in Ghana towards digital payments, towards the use of mobile money. But the reality is, if you're coming from another country, you don't have a mobile money account locally. It's hard for you to make that payment if you're not able to make a card. Cash is bulky. It's risky to carry, particularly in large amounts. This is how travelers prefer to make payments. And so if we aren't making that adoption, we're significantly harming the experience of people. And when we think about making booking online, we're actually eliminating people from coming at all if they can't make a booking online through a card payment. If they can go to Egypt and make their booking for their hotel online using a card payment and they can't in Ghana, guess what? They're going to choose to go to Egypt. So that is where we need to really unpack this trade-off between the costs and benefits. So there are costs incurred in adopting technology. When we're developing a new website, that comes with cost. Either we need to develop the skills ourselves to be able to develop a website, or we need to hire someone to develop that. That does come with cost, but it also comes with real benefits. And I think that's the part that needs stronger demonstration within the Ghana market. It's hard to quantify what those benefits are, particularly if we don't have widespread adoption of these tools. So creating a stronger articulation and demonstration of what those benefits are, and also what the real costs are. If I go back to the example of a website, we don't necessarily need a fancy website to make a compelling online presence. Sometimes a Facebook page can be sufficient if it is designed in a way that offers sufficient credibility to someone who is looking for it. So the cost can sometimes be overstated if you don't fully understand, as business owners, exactly what it entails to adopt these tools. The less we know about the tools, the higher we perceive those costs to be. And that's where the skills component comes in. So building a broad understanding of what tools are available and what it takes to adopt those is really important. Skills is important in terms of the fundamental skills. How do we do data analysis, for example? How do you code to design a website? All of that. Those are skills that we need in the sector. But to be honest, as business owners across the sector, most people don't need to have those skills. You need to know who you can call on to access those skills in a relatively affordable way. But as business owners, we do need to understand what the value to our business is. So we need a working understanding of what those skills entail, and particularly what they would offer to me as a business. We take again the example of a website. Having a website in and of itself is fine, and I'm sure almost all the business owners in this room have a website. But having a website is all fine and dandy, but are we making best use of it? Are we enabling booking online through our websites? That's easiest for our consumers, for travelers to confirm where they want to stay or book an experience. Are we extracting the information to understand where are visitors to our website coming from? Are we attracting people from the US to look at our website? Is it mostly people based in Ghana who are looking at our website? Is it people coming from the UK, from South Africa? How long are they staying on each web page? Which web pages are gaining the most traffic? This is all data and information that is actually relatively simple to access and relatively affordable to access to understand how are people using my website. And if you track that for a couple of months, you start to find some really interesting insights that can really inform how to design your website to be as compelling as possible, to attract the most number of people, and to ensure that people who do come to your website stay on your website and are more likely to make a booking or to progress further with you. So turning those leads into actual customers rather than just having people click on your website and then immediately click away. So I think understanding the full benefits of these and the full costs as well, or the real costs as well, of adopting these different tools is really important. And I think this is just emphasizing the point that as much as I'm sure, as I said, many of the people in this room do have websites. When we look across the sector, website development and adoption is really low. It's sort of between 25 and 30% across the different subsectors of the tourism sector. And to be clear, what we have as a website here is actually classified as if you have a web presence articulated within Google. So a Facebook page would also show up here as a website. So this demonstrates the relatively low adoption of web presence by actors across the tourism sector. Now, this is really important, not just from the perspective of individual businesses who are losing out because people can't find them. And Nazan showed the slide earlier that is of critical importance when we're thinking about this. Travelers globally almost exclusively identify where they want to go and where they want to stay by looking online. 82% of travelers determine where they're going to go and make those bookings exclusively online. On average, an average traveler will look at 38 different websites before deciding where to go and what to do when they visit a new location. So the lack of websites is really, or web presence, maybe a better term, is really important when we think about the sector. And it's important not just for those businesses that are missing out, it's important even for those businesses that do have a website. Because if we think about it, when someone travels to a new place, to a new country, you want to assess, first of all, where do I want to stay, but then also what do I want to do when I get there. We all work collaboratively across the sector, right? And if I have a hotel based in Accra, but there are no tour guides, no tour operators that are visible online, someone coming to Accra is going to see, okay, I can stay with me, but there's nothing to do. So why would I want to come here? If we don't have even our public assets available online, why? I know that Ghana's got this great reputation. I'm really interested. I've read about the year of return, but I've looked online and I can't actually see anything that looks interesting to do. So that's why we need an integrated approach to thinking about a compelling web presence that's not just limited to individual companies, but is thinking about the sector as a whole and creating a strong value proposition for tourists who look online and try and understand where they can where they can go and what they can do. And I think it's true with the public sector as well. So when we look at Visit Ghana, for example, which is by far the most visited website in the tourism sector, which is good news, that's great. But still, only 2 out of 10 people who visit Ghana actually visit the website Visit Ghana. And a significant portion of those do so only when they've arrived in Ghana. So they aren't looking at it before they come to Ghana, they only look at it once they're here. So there's significant room for growth. And I think last time, as many of you recall, we compared that with some of the other countries. Another country that we've worked in the tourism space is Rwanda, that has been a bit more successful in attracting traffic onto the Visit Rwanda site. And that's translated into higher numbers of people visiting Rwanda. It's not as simple as that, clearly. There are other components that go into that. But I think it is important. It really does drive people's behavior. I think the other part here is, and this was the point I was making now, is it's not just about driving people to individual websites, but also thinking about the sector as a whole and how potential visitors will move through but as I mentioned, 38 different websites before making a decision. And so in order to make a compelling value proposition to someone visiting my website, ideally I should also have referrals to other websites, to other activities, to other locations, other things that they can do whilst they're here. If I run a hotel, it makes sense to have links to car rental companies, to visit Ghana, to tour guides, tour operators, etc., to give a holistic experience for tourists. And what we looked at here, and we looked at some of the major websites in the country. It was not easy to do on a sectoral wide level to look at everyone's website, unfortunately. But the lack of referrals was a really key finding here, that very few clicks come through from other websites. Almost all clicks to these primary websites in Ghana come through organic search, which is through Google or other search engines, or through direct entry into your search engine. So people know that they want to actually go to that website directly. Very few referring between websites. None referring from social media. Literally not a single click-through from social media over the period that we looked at here. So really making better use of those additional communication channels and creating that holistic picture of what to do in Ghana is a real opportunity. So practically, what can we do about this? So there are a number of things we can do, and many of these things will sit at individual business level. But looking at it from a systemic level, what we can do as a sector as a whole, I think the first is to look at digital skills. And as I mentioned, digital skills doesn't necessarily need to be, we all need to understand all the intricacies of how to code a website or do in-depth data analysis. But I think that there's two layers in which it will be beneficial to think about improving digital and data skills in the market. The first is by ensuring that the curriculum at our training colleges, so the training colleges and universities that are training on tourism, ensure that their curriculum effectively conveys the available digital tools, the available use of what kinds of digital tools are available, how they can be used through businesses, and how to ensure that you're assessing data, collecting data and assessing that data in a useful way to drive businesses. So that the graduates that are emerging from those training colleges and coming into the sector are bringing those skills into the businesses that we see. The second is to look at increasing the number of short courses and trainings that target this for business owners. And I think in collaboration with the association, many of whom are represented in this room, I think there's a real opportunity here to develop short courses that really emphasize and demonstrate the value to business owners of adopting these tools and making those steps to digitize their business offerings. And really, as I mentioned earlier, shifting those perceptions, that mindset of the perceived costs and the perceived benefits, demonstrating what the benefits are and what the real costs are, so that decisions can be made at a business level, and that there is incentive for business owners to invest in the skills of their staff, to invest in websites, to invest in systems in their businesses. The second aspect that we thought would be useful, and I think from our own assessment, is not currently clearly represented, is the National Service Scheme. So I do know that some of students doing national service do work in tourism sector, but the tourism sector is not listed on the Ministry of Education as an option for national service, correct? So this is a real opportunity, right? This is a way to bring young graduates into the tourism sector, give them exposure to what the needs of the tourism sector are, and to leverage the skills that they have. Young people are more digitally native. The younger people they've grown up using, many of them, have grown up using digital tools and are more capable of using it. So to me, or to us, this seems like just an easy win. Like the national service is a really useful mechanism to bring in young people into the sector. The second, I think, is to look at, okay, how can we provide greater guidance on an ongoing basis to industry? So GHATOF, as the apex association for industry, is well positioned. I think we need to ensure that there is a digital space that is available to all actors across the tourism sector, so a website that houses the information for the sector as a whole. And then look at how we can incorporate things like providing a list of vetted digital technology and data solution providers. As I mentioned, we don't need in this room to all know how to develop a website. There are people who specialize in this. I think we have some at that table over there. And so making sure that there's a list of available service providers that is easy to access and detail what skills they can provide or what tools they can provide to businesses is a way in which to make it just simplify the process of identifying how to go through this adoption process. Similarly, I think providing additional guidance on using digital technology. These are simple things that can actually help significantly in shortcoming the process of figuring out what you want to do and how you want to do it as a business owner. And then I think there is a need to increase the use of technology in appropriate spaces. So one thing we spoke about the need for referrals and for references. And so one suggestion can be for the regulator to require all providers in the market to list, say, 3 references on their website whenever they renew a license. We also need to ensure that there is a compelling web page for all of Ghana's heritage sites and popular activities. That most likely sits with Visit Ghana, so with the GTA. And they have this for a number of the key heritage sites in the country. So I don't want to try and suggest that this doesn't exist to an extent, but not all key sites are listed on the website currently. And I think there needs to be quite certain that that site is maintained. That is really critical. If it goes down for a while and it's the key site that people are going to, that really undermines trust and the perception that these sites can be, that people will visit them. And then over time, we would recommend that an online ticket system can be introduced for those sites to make it as simple as possible for visitors to visit those key iconic sites that Ghana has. So from this, I think just coming back to this decision-making framework is the emphasis really needs to be on the experience. I think as we've said a number of times, Ghana's done a good job at promoting Ghana as a destination, but making it as simple and as clear as possible for visitors who come here on where to stay, what to do, and how to go about it is really can't overstate the importance of that. And that means thinking about or understanding how do tourists engage? What kind of things do they want? So when they communicate with us, do they prefer to communicate via email? And if so, are we equipped to respond to them via email rather than using WhatsApp? Can we enable card payments because that's how they prefer to pay? They're the customers, and so we need to equip ourselves to respond to what their expectations, what their norms, what their realities are. Okay, so moving on to the second focus area, now looking really at data. So we've spoken a lot about digital presence and the importance of digital presence. What about data, and how can data help to inform the decisions that we make? So from a subsection of the institutions we spoke to, we found that most institutions, the majority of institutions do collect some kind of data. However, when we delve into that in a little bit more depth, the type of data that's collected is usually limited to biodata on customers. So name, nationality, age, maybe a couple of simple indicators. That's a good start, but it doesn't tell you how they experienced your offering. It doesn't tell you what you could do better. It doesn't give you feedback on what they didn't enjoy about staying with you or using or engaging in your experience. We also found that data is collected quite inconsistently, and as a result, I think authorities at the sectoral level have quite incomplete data sets. So it's hard to make informed decisions on a systemic level across the sector because of the incompleteness of how data is collected and available. And I think most importantly, when we think about this and how to change this is, why should we collect data? We need to demonstrate what are the use cases. Why is it valuable to collect data in a useful way, and how can it inform business practices to enhance profitability, revenue, growth of the sector and of individual businesses in the sector? And I'll come back to this. So some of the reasons why it's not collected is skills and buy-in is really key. I think if we understand why and what the value is, I think that certainly helps to create the incentive for how people and why people will collect data more deliberately. But if you don't have the adoption of technologies to enable easy access and easy collection of data, for example, I spoke about websites, you can get a huge amount of really valuable information and data and insights that informs your business, informs the sector, if you know how to assess web traffic, if you know how to look at how people are engaging with your website. So simply understanding how to do that and adopting the tools accordingly can be really valuable. And the result is that this is having a ripple effect in terms of how it's manifesting the wider challenges impacting the tourism sector. So on one hand, we see quite limited collaboration across the sector. We spoke about the lack of referrals between websites, but I think this happens in person as well, where there's relatively limited collaboration. And again, coming back to the use cases, one of the real value propositions of data is if you can better understand who the visitors are, who your consumers are, what they want, what their needs are, you can start to identify how to build more holistic value propositions for those customers. And that can help to drive collaboration. So if customers say, I really want an experience where I can stay here, I can do this, and I can do that, you can start to create an integrated solution that addresses the needs for those customers. Now, this is where tour operators obviously play a role, but even tour operators, from our experiences, can make far better use of data to understand who their customers are and to refine and inform the types of tours and the types of solutions that they offer. And in turn, obviously, if people have a better experience, that translates into more demand down the line as people tell friends, family, etc. And in theory, creates a virtuous cycle of more people visiting the country. I think we also obviously need to look at some of the basics. We spoke about the key enablers. So if infrastructure, like digital infrastructure, is not in place, it does become difficult to collect data, to remain online, and to use data in a useful way. So understanding and ensuring that we are using data in a way to inform investment in public infrastructure, particularly for government, is really important. So looking at how we can identify where are there connectivity gaps across the country and what kind of digital infrastructure can we invest in to ensure that particularly tourism hotspots are sufficiently enabled and businesses there are able to have the effective access to online and therefore to tourists. If tourism is one of the national priorities in Ghana, it makes sense to make sure that we, as the government, as public sector, invest accordingly. There are also things like identifying opportunities to invest in or to identify where there are key challenges in the tourist experience. One thing we heard quite a lot in our previous visit from across a number of stakeholders is that a consistent feedback from tourists, particularly for tour groups, is the lack of access to sanitation facilities when traveling long distances to different sites. And that's a fairly simple thing to solve, right? You can partner with fuel stations to increase the number of public bathrooms. You can invest in infrastructure to create public bathrooms. But to identify what to do or where to build those requires just an understanding of where there are gaps in the existing public bathrooms. So looking at GIS data can be really valuable in identifying where should we invest a relatively small amount in the scheme of things in a public bathroom, for example. Similarly, we know that some of the beaches require, are polluted or have litter. Using satellite data to identify where there's a need for beach cleanups can significantly enhance the value that tourists have, or the experience that tourists have when visiting. So really what we need to think about with the use of data is removing the perception-based barriers. So helping to understand what the real value of data is and removing and reducing the perceived challenges and cost of using data by providers. We then need to also think about how to make data collection more effective, or ensure that data is more effectively collected on an ongoing basis. Because if we don't have sectoral-wide data, it does make it really difficult for government. It makes it really difficult for the sector as a whole to make decisions that are going to influence us across the board. So one of the things is in the collection of data so GTA currently requires all regulated entities to report on an annual basis. But the data that is reported tends to be incomplete, patchy, not reliably reported on an ongoing basis. So one of the things, for example, can GTA remove some of the requirements regarding revenue? Because we've identified, or from stakeholders, was identified as a sensitive issue to report on by stakeholders. And the reality is they can actually calculate that using alternative data that is already collected, for example, by the Revenue Authority. And instead focus on the key information related to number of customers, employees, and feedback from customers to ensure that they can inform how to improve the overall experience of visitors to the country. And then, as I said, I think the key part here is incentivizing data collection by highlighting what problems it can solve. So I've spoken about some of the examples like infrastructure investments. One of the other key challenges for private sector is accessing funding, accessing finance, right? That's a key challenge that I think many people will face. Data is not a panacea, it's not a silver bullet to solve that. But it is a challenge to access funding if you don't have data. If you cannot put forward your business case to a potential investor and say, this is what we project growth to be, it's really hard to then make the case in terms of accessing financing. And if you don't have reliable sectoral-wide data, it's quite hard to estimate what those kind of growth projections could look like. Thinking about what are these key use cases to inform and to incentivize businesses and individuals across the sector to make better use of data. I think feedback is another one. So ensuring that there's consistent feedback loops that isn't just about ensuring that we maintain a good reputation online, but actually use that information to improve the offering that we have, to facilitate and encourage more people to use the service and to have a good experience. So I think I've spoken to many of these things, but I think really looking at what are the opportunities then to make better use of data. A major opportunity emerging in the next year is the collection of data for the tourism satellite account that the Ghana Statistical Service is currently busy with in partnership with the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and the Ghana Tourism Authority. So the tourism satellite account is 4 surveys that are being run that focus on both tourists, inbound and outbound, as well as providers within the tourism sector. And they are really rich data sets that provide a lot of information and will help us to much more deeply understand what the current state of activities are within the sector, where the opportunities are and where the challenges are, and what kind of feedback tourists are providing when they leave the country, in particular, after a visit. So this is an opportunity for us to really be deliberate in digging into that information, using that data that we have to understand where are the current challenges, where are the current opportunities. And I think something like an annual report that really demonstrates and shares the data that is collected by particularly by GTA, will be really valuable in ensuring that there is more consistent, more robust, more reliable information for us to make decisions across the sector as a whole. And then I think encouraging private sector operators to use data in their business decisions. So demonstrating again the use cases. And we spoke about the training sessions that we're having next week, where we'll actually dig into some of these specific use cases and a little bit more detail on how to go about it. But for example, from the interviews that we conducted with different private sector players across the market, we only found one institution that alters the pricing of their products based on data analysis that they've done. So we know, for example, we can show you, I think we had a slide in the previous session, that shows the seasonality. That shows the seasonality of tourist activity in Ghana. And I think we all know it intuitively, right? December in Ghana is a really big activity. We see a significant growth in the number of people who visit Ghana over November, December. That's peak period. But we're setting prices consistently across the entire year, rather than reflecting the actual demand over time. So thinking about using data to not just understand who the consumers are and what they want, but also how to set prices, how to segment our customers in a way that enables us to do more targeted marketing, are all ways in which we can directly impact and enhance revenue opportunities across industry. Okay, so moving on to the last innovation, or the last focus area, is to really look at innovation. And I think we really shouldn't understate the importance of innovation in driving the sector forward. Many of you, I'm sure, will have read in the papers around the growth of tech industries across the continent. We work quite on the financial sector. We've seen the growth of fintech significantly change and alter the nature of the financial sector. We've all experienced that, right? The growth of mobile money is an example of that. How it's fundamentally changed much of society, and not just in Ghana, but across the entire continent. We don't see as much of this innovation currently happening in the tourism sector, and that's an opportunity that we're currently missing, I think. So the first thing is, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but I want to put them all on a slide to just show the level of challenge, like the requirements by actors within the market are faced with. So this is a range of the levies, taxes, permits, reporting requirements, property rates, insurance, all the things that are required to run a business in the tourism sector. It's quite a lot of things. And not all of them apply to all businesses, but it really does create a complex operating environment for private sector players in the market. And if we're thinking about innovators, and particularly entrepreneurs coming out with innovative ideas, trying to engage with this is quite complex. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's possible or even desirable to remove all of these or many of these. Many of them are there for a good reason. But think about how to simplify them, how to clarify the requirements, how to make it as simple as possible to comply with these, particularly for new entrants, for new businesses in the market, is a real opportunity to improve and simplify the operating environment and to encourage innovators and entrepreneurs to enter the sector. I think there are also a number of regulatory requirements that probably do need adaptation. So, for instance, some of the license requirements are a little bit out of date, in our opinion. So, the fact that tour operators require a physical premise is probably something that is no longer valid in a primarily digital market. So, thinking about how to adapt the approach from a regulatory perspective as well, I think is really important to ensure that we encourage and make it as simple as possible for businesses in the industry to operate. And so thinking about how to evolve the regulatory approach. And we're not here intending to pick on the GTA or anything like that. This is something that regulators across the world, across sectors are grappling with, is how to enable, how to adapt, how to evolve to the changing norms of a market that is increasingly driven by online presence, online engagement, and the use of digital tools. And how to ensure that they are enabling of those innovations in different sectors, while still ensuring that they maintain standards, ensure that customers or tourists are protected, ensure the ongoing credibility and reliability of the sector remains important. But there are ways in which they can adapt the approach that they take. And some of the things that I think are really simple to do is improving the clarity, improving guidance in terms of how to access the market, how to comply with regulation, looking at what's being done globally and adopting best practices in that way. And then I think adapting licenses and improving the flexibility. so that when we see new entrants coming into the market that don't currently fit within a license category, and we spoke to some of those in this market, instead of it being 2 to 3 years of uncertainty whilst they're allowed to operate in a grey space, I think providing them clarity to allow them to operate, to introduce a new license category, or at least to give them an explicit letter of no objection, that they can operate under a greater level of certainty, really improves the chances that they're able to succeed and improve their ability to access things like investment and funding and to grow in that initial phase-in period. Because these are the types of entities that we really want to encourage into the market. Actors like digital platforms that help to aggregate services and help to provide back-end service operators, booking systems that can help to streamline how all of us can do our business more efficiently, more affordably. These are the ways in which we can enhance the operations, the efficiency, and reduce the cost of operation across the sector. So, reducing the cost in the market, enabling new products, services, and ideas, and encouraging new ideas that are going to shape the way, things that we may not have thought about, but that as businesses we can adopt as well. Demonstration cases of what can work, what doesn't work as well. A healthy market is a market that sees a lot of innovative new entrants, many of which will fail, but some of which will succeed and will demonstrate how business can change, how nature of business can change. And I think that's something that we can do a lot more to encourage in the tourism sector in Ghana. And so some of this falls certainly on the regulator and on government to think about how to reduce the cost of entry, but also accelerate the licensing process and make it as simple as possible. Some of it also looks at where are there potential opportunities to encourage innovators. And one of the things that we speak a lot about when speaking to across different sectors is that there are a finite number of innovative, let's say ICT graduates in this case, but obviously, maybe from innovative graduates from university. There's a finite number. It's a valuable resource that we want to tap into. If I, as let's say an ICT graduate, have just graduated from university and I am looking to start my own business as an entrepreneur, what am I looking for? I'm looking for how I can apply my skills to solve a problem in the long term that I can build a business around that's ultimately going to make me money. Now, as a graduate, I probably don't have a strong perception of what sector I want to solve a problem in. I just want to identify which sector I can develop a solution for and that is going to find my solution valuable. So what does that mean? That means that as a sector, implicitly we're actually competing with all the other sectors in Ghana for the small number of innovative graduates who are looking to start new businesses. Because they can start a business that's going to improve the transport industry. They can start a business that's going to improve the financial industry. They can start a business that's going to improve any other sector, the agricultural solutions. We want to encourage those graduates to choose the tourism sector. And how do we do that? We do that by highlighting what are the key challenges that we face in the tourism sector that could be resolved or solved or addressed by innovative graduates, particularly with technological solutions. So highlighting where are there gaps, where are there opportunities, and sharing that with that community. So partnering with tech hubs and with development partners who support innovators and helping to identify what are the problems that we face in the sector so that they're aware of those and they can develop solutions according to those. And then we want to work with them so that we want to create opportunities like tech sprints, like hackathons, opportunities where we bring innovators together around solving key problems. And as a sector as a whole, this can be of massive benefit. This can help us to address the key problems that we face and can deliver a more vibrant sector that creates more opportunities. A really interesting opportunity that we've identified from looking at Ghana, but also looking globally, is in kind of the guiding space. and in particular looking at experiential tourism. So one of the major draw cards that Ghana has positioned itself as, and also has an abundance, is really your heritage and culture. That's one of the major draw cards why people come to Ghana or want to come to Ghana. We also see that globally there is a strong trend, a really strong trend towards tourists looking for experiences. So rather than just visiting a place, visiting a historical attraction, they increasingly want to experience local culture, whether that is joining in to cook a meal with someone locally, build a creative craft, like whatever the case is. There's many different things. Adventure tourism, for example. Adventure tourism is actually growing in Ghana. It's one of the growing sectors amongst tours. And so this is one of the strengths that Ghana has. It's also a growing demand globally. So this seems like a really good opportunity for us to think about how can we incorporate experiential tourism and build that sector within Ghana in a way that will encourage more people to enter the market. So guides, for example, that can offer those, and partnering with the creative sector in particular. So partnering with creative industry to develop those innovative experiences and tours that will attract tourists, and in turn create a far better experience for tourists that benefits all of us as we think about, in encouraging and creating a virtuous cycle to encourage more tourists to enter the market. And I think, but in order for that to succeed, we need technology that will facilitate a wide-ranging, different set types of experiences. It's all well and good for people to develop, experiences that people can access. But how are tourists going to find it? We need a centralized platform. We need some kind of systems that will enable, clear access, findability, usability, trust, that tourists will book those kind of experiences. So that's one of, I'm sure there's many other ideas that people in the room have, but highlighting these kind of opportunities and highlighting them to innovators who can help to develop solutions for industry, I think is another key opportunity that we can look to work at. And these are things that happen at a systems level, at a sectoral level. But thinking about many of the people in this room represent associations. As associations, partnering with the many tech hubs that exist in Accra, for example. Certainly public sector, there's a number of public sector people in the room as well. As public sector, can we partner with tech hubs or with other development partners in order to develop these types of to highlight and encourage innovators to develop interesting solutions for the sector. So overall, I think that, as I said, these are some of the particular priorities we've identified as being particularly short-term opportunities that can yield benefits in the form of increasing the visibility of operators in the Ghanaian national brand, ushering in the use of innovative tools that will enhance the experience of tourists when they do visit the country, and then enhancing cost-saving, efficiency, improving mechanisms, and enhancing revenue opportunities, particularly by using, segmenting data, pricing for customers, seasonality, etc. And in the medium term, then hope would be that would enable existing operators to expand their businesses, hire more people, grow the sector as a whole. So it creates greater contribution to Ghana as a whole, creating greater, as well as then obviously creating growth opportunities for the individual actors, the individual institutions within the sector, and enabling new market entrants into the tourism sector. And again, I've spoken about this a lot, and I know that competition is sometimes seen as a bad thing, and with good reason, for existing players in the market. But I think there's the legitimate reason to encourage competition when it brings in new innovation, even if it brings competition to you as a business owner. That competition often is able to push you and to push us in the sector to enhance your offering. And I think there is a need for, as we spoke about earlier, there is a need for Ghana's tourism sector to make that leap forward, to make that leap, because remember, you're not just competing with the person across the road from you. You're actually competing with the people in Egypt, with the people in Senegal, with people in South Africa. That's your biggest competition. You want to get people to come to Ghana in the first place, and then try and look at and grow the pie for everyone in the industry. So if we can, so building more innovative, compelling value propositions for tourists to visit Ghana in the first place should, in theory, benefit everyone in the sector as a whole. And that's the last part. So in the long term, to stimulate a cycle of sustainable growth that is fueled by increased tourism, competition, and innovation, and creating a more vibrant market that can encourage ongoing growth sustainably across the country. So those are our key takeaways from what we've done. As Lazan mentioned, we'll be digging into some of the specific use cases and some of the specific applications and tools that can be applied in the training session. I think many people will be attending next week, where we'll be looking specifically at, firstly, how can you use data to enhance your business operations if you're from the private sector, or if you're from the public sector, how can you use data to inform public or policy decision making? And then the second part of the day, I have it a long way around. The second part of the day is looking at digital marketing, and we have a specialist who focuses on digital marketing running the training, who will look at what kind of tools, what kind of presence is appropriate to be online. How can you make yourself as findable as possible on Google, for example, to encourage traffic to your website? And then once you have people visiting your website or Facebook page or social media presence, you will look at the different channels that are available and what is most appropriate for different types of businesses. Once you have attracted people, how can you then assess what they do on their website, and how can you therefore improve those clicks, or turn those clicks into actual visitors? So we'll be going into that into more detail next week. But yeah, I think maybe I can end there and thank everyone. We'll open certainly for questions now, but I think to wrap up, I think thank you everyone for your attention, and I definitely see people engaged, so that's good to see. And I just want to acknowledge our partners again, CDC, who's been a great partner with us from the beginning, Emmanuel and ATRN, who have worked closely with us throughout the project, and then most importantly, the Mastercard Foundation, who have partnered with us through this project. And I think what is important here is what we've highlighted today is really the opportunities for both the private sector institutions and for public sector to take some specific steps along this journey, and it's a long journey. I think as they articulated in the last workshop, Mastercard Foundation is also committed to the long-term development of the tourism sector, and so are also in the process of considering how they can provide further support to industry over the next couple of years. So thank you very much.
So I think that was quick. Well done, Jerry. So the next session, that is where I love the most, the interactive section, because they've said a lot, and this research has taken them a lot of time and resources to put all this together. Now we've heard quite a number of things, and we are all stakeholders. Fortunately, we have our government officials here as well, who also play a vital role in our industry. Tourism and hospitality has a lot of linkages. We connect to almost every sector. So we have a responsibility to make sure that we do the right thing. They also have a responsibility to make sure that they provide us with what we need so that we can actually develop the sector, which is, for me, the one that is really propelling the country, the tourism and hospitality sector. So we are going to have some. I told you we're not going to have break because we had our snack before we started. So those who couldn't have your snack, I don't know if it's still there. You can still go out there and grab something. But the next 30 minutes, we want to engage before lunch. It's just about 11, 11:20. So at least we have some time. But some people just came in. I see my good brother, um, the general or the managing director or CEO of Adanse group of companies. And then I've seen a few people who have just joined in before we started Q&A. Also a member of SCAP, a Madam President SCAP. Okay, so we'll do that introduction and then so Gideon. Sorry, what did I say? No, he will introduce himself. So
Alright, so my name is Gideon Asare.
please, I want to see you. When you hear Adansi, that's the young man, the small boy.
My name is Gideon Asare. So I manage Adansi Travels, and Adansi Travels is focused on creating exciting tour packages for people who want to explore Ghana and those who want to explore abroad. And I think the theme for today is very appropriate. As a business, we use data a lot. I mean, we don't joke with our data. Currently, we have contracted an IT firm to mine all our data from 2016 to date to clean it so that not only that we have the data, but we can use to make an informed decisions moving forward. And so I was excited to hear the import of data and how it can help the entire tourism sector. So we look forward to contributing whatever we know and learning from all the stakeholders here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also see somebody from Agreg. I won't mention his name, I won't mention who he is, but you see him on TV making noise.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Mensa Christian Sawado, PhD, Deputy Secretary for the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Council, also the Executive Director for African Center for Business Incubation. We are basically engaged in agro-tourism, and which is why we are so excited to be part of this workshop, and we believe we'll be able to enhance our agriculture sector via tourism, that's agro-tourism. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yesterday, when we had a meeting with Mastercard, and then when we got to the end of it, they asked, so what is the link with Agreg? So I'm happy he's here. Tourism has every link with Agreg. Every link. It's unfortunate. In Ghana, most of the hotels, the 4-5 star hotels, they get almost about 80 to 90% of their food products from outside. Why should that be so? So, Agreg, give us a solution. Who else just walked in? I've seen Nana. I think. Oh yes, very important person here. I'm happy she's here. Please let them see you.
Hi to everyone. My name is Sandra Bulu. From the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board. Of course, data plays a very important role in everything we do. And from the presentation, I mean, our online presence is something we are really working hard to be felt there. I mean, visit the museum, visit all the heritage sites when you come to Ghana. But of course, where do you see it until you visit? And so that is one of the major things we are working on, and we are glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon. Good morning. I'm Abraham Davis. I'm also with the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board. She said everything, so thank you very much.
Thank you. So, yes.
Yeah, my name is Edwin Bruce Lau, and I work for the National Development Planning Commission. And I believe I have a colleague here already. So I'm sure he will have introduced what we do at the commission. But just to let you know that we are really keen on seeing the sector contribute and really get a lot out of the sector for Ghanaians generally. And there's a lot of things that are happening. Last year, for instance, earlier in the year, there was a presidential summit on tourism. A lot of talk about how even it intersects with sectors like environment, what is happening in the environmental space regarding sanitation, and the experience for those who actually visit. And I'd like to see the challenges also draw on some of these things so we can see how other sectors work impacts the tourism sector. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great to have you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nana Mota Sekbau, and I'm the CEO or Managing Director for Q1 Travel and Tours, and currently the Secretary for SCAL Ghana, and I'm very excited to be here. What we mostly do is sustainable travel and eco-tourism travel, and we do both inbound and outbound. And what we use our data for is exactly what we are learning here today, and it's very, very important. So I encourage all of you to pay attention and also learn from each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And she came with someone. Felicia. You're Felicia?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Yes. I'll come in.
Good morning, everyone. I'm part of the Service Excellence Foundation, and while I was here, I have been able to learn a lot. That the culture of Ghana, it's something that encourages people to visit the country, and then also Ghana is not only competing with the local people, but also it's a global thing that people in Egypt and other areas who are also into tourism. And data also keeps, that's a very good work in terms of tourism. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. I guess it's
Good morning, everyone. My name is Isabel Nokono, Senior Tourism Officer from the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. We are also into policy, so I think it's a good idea that we came to listen, to learn, and then get more ideas to make policies for the development of Ghana and then the tourism sector at large. Thank you.
Policy makers are bosses, so good to have you. Clara, you are looking for a place to sit. That's what you get when you come late for events. So introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Edith Finaman. I'm from 11 Consult. It's a hospitality consultancy. We do training, recruitment, and we are affiliated with a lot of hospitality facilities. So I'm here as a rep to get the information and also share with them, my clients.
First worker from the US, so see her, she has dollars. She just got back from the States.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Veronica, the National President for Ghana Association of Tourism and Hospitality Students. So I'm representing the students' body, and I'm glad the data day has been talked about here today. So we'll work on our data and then get it right because, as it said, that's what we can use to make our policies right and to make amendments to some things concerning the association. And fortunately, too, we have a website, so we are going to use our website to attract people and to make them stay. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mark Ventures, I'll come to you.
My name is Alex J. I'm the Kakum National Park Manager. And
you are coming here from here, so please go with them.
All right, you are most welcome. It's good to be here. Our major stakeholders are here, so we're required here to learn what they face at our site so that we can also go and then improve our services. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Salasi. I'm from Robinson. We're
virtual reality company, and we're here because we work with the tourism industry or organizations within the tourism industry to provide them with virtual tours and other solutions that help them gather data and market their spaces. Kakun, we have a virtual tour of Kakun Park. I don't know if it knows or not. And other key sort of travel destinations and tourist attractions as well. So that's why we are going to network and connect.
Great. Please, can you stand up, please? Respectfully. There are three of them, about three companies. I learned about them just last week. They are doing extremely well in the tourism space, but we don't know them. So that is why some of these engagements are extremely important. So please get in touch with them. I don't know where the other two are, but I haven't met them personally. This is the first time I'm meeting them. So they were recommended to me by a very important stakeholder. So good to have you. Why are you shy?
Please, I just want to add something that Dobson is not only in the tourism space.
Wow.
He's been very, very instrumental in the work we are doing to report on the UN SDGs.
Wow.
Last year, our whole virtual reality experience that we showcased at the high level political forum, we worked closely with him.
You do it all. You do it all. Or you can clap for him. I'll take anything from you. Also. Those tell us who you are. Can't be here and not tell us who you are.
Good morning. I'm Aya Nelson from Kids and Toys in Ghana.
So they are the ones trying to bring tourism to children in schools. So they have clubs from 5 years to about 13 years. They tell them about our culture. They take them to places and encourage them to inculcate tourism as way of life. So they are the ones doing that. And the young lady here who doesn't want to introduce herself, I met her about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and we lost touch. I used to help them with drama and other things, and a few of them at the art center. And she got in touch just recently. She's at the university now, and I invited her. So she's into culture and other things, and I'm happy to have her. So, who is there? Oh, yes.
Hi, my name is Bright Sanano. I'm a lecturer at the University of Media, Arts and Communication, formerly known as GIG. I teach business communication, tourism marketing. I teach event management, which is more or less a tourism aspect as well. And I'm happy to be here and be engaged in this conversation, because there you get to meet the stakeholders and what practice is about and what we can involve practice in teaching our theories in the classroom and all of that. So yeah, I'm great to be here. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you from GIG. It's awesome. I missed you earlier on, but let's go. No, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Asante. I'm with the CDC team. I think Peter already spoke and told you all about us, so I'll
Thank you. Did I miss you? Yes, I did.
You're very observant. Okay, so my name is Shadrach Adoti. I am with Event Builders Association of Ghana.
Thank you, I'm coming in. This one, somebody important here.
Okay, so my name is Caleb Kofi. I'm the National Executive Secretary for Ghana Tourism Federation and also the President of Service Excellence Foundation. A part of GHATOF is part of ATRN in partnership to organize this event. So I'm excited to be a part of it, and I believe that digital marketing, digital tool, digital skills is important for one reason. If you are not part of the digital world, then you'll be left behind. Number two, the essence of digital marketing and the knowledge we're acquiring basically will do two things. One, to create efficiency and to cut costs. Thank you.
Thank you. so I know I missed yeah. Okay, that's fine. So backbenchers, we start out here.
I am Peter Senyo from Shepherd Musical and Dance Group. Yes, sir. I'm Gabriel from Africa Scale Up, where we focus on empowering women, kids. It's more on the training based in the community and the vulnerable areas. And data and the data tools are very important to us. We focus on the youth up to SMS trainings. And Douglas, we're here. Thank you.
Awesome. Good to have them. They have recently constructed a training center. Very beautiful. I think the second or third training we had on social media marketing for women. That's where we had it. It was a small place, but now they built massive area that I think we can have different events, different training there. So they are also into training. So please talk to them as well. I think at this point we will get into the Q&A. Oh, yes. Wow. Thank you. My name is Samuel Kwame Foss. I'm here to represent Mr. Kojo Yanka, who doesn't need elaborate introduction, but briefly, he is the founder of the Pan-African Heritage Museum and the University of Communications. I would have been in big trouble if I escaped that, because you all know Professor Yanka, Honorable Professor Kojo Yanka. His brother is actually there. So, Visionaire Pan-African Heritage Museum, one of the major, how should I put it, event that will take place in the next probably 5 years. He's building Pan-African Heritage Museum that will host almost everything about our culture, our heritage, just around Apam, just after Winneba Junction on your right. And I'm proud to say that I was privileged to be called to sit on that board. And probably I'm the youngest there, and you see professors and ex-presidents, ex-ministers, and all those people. So it's good. Prof, you're also here. Thank you. It's great to have you. At this point, we'll do our question and answers. So ask all the questions you have. I've seen somebody at the back, but when we finish, okay, let me just give that person the privilege to introduce yourself. Please.
My name is Emerald Asay of
Thank you. Good to have you. So you just raise your hand, and we will come to you. We will take first 5.
Okay, thank you. Whilst you were having the presentation, you mentioned about the use of data, especially data by operators, that you were asking that we should encourage operators to be present online at the same time. That's what we talk about when we do research and brought about information that showcases that Ghana's, in terms of the promotional aspect, Ghana is well known, but when a decision is taken by the tourists to visit the specific areas, I just want to find out in your research work and recommendation, you have a typical case that you can use to advise because of their policy. I'm coming from government side.
absolutely. I think an excellent use case that we can refer to in this case is Egypt, for example. So what Egypt did, and they're an ideal use case to look at because currently speaking, I think they're the most visited country in Africa. So what they did in 2020 is they launched a digitization program, which had several sub-projects to channel and facilitate people through the tourism value chain. So for example, they started off by saying, we want to get people here, so they put all of their museums, things in that line online so that it has a digital presence. Then they made sure that it's easy to get to Egypt by launching their e-visa program, for example. So now you want to come and it's easy to get here. Then what they did is they tried to make sure that at least at their public institutions, it was easy to book online, it was easy to get your tickets, and it was easy to pay. So that even if you're not directly engaging with private sector operators from the start, at least your more public sector areas are easy to get to, and it essentially creates an opportunity for private sector operators to latch onto it and to build off of it. If you have a private sector operator, for a tourism operator, for example, that facilitates these areas. And then what they did is they also ensured that it's easy for tourists to provide feedback online and to engage after their engagement. So, for example, having a QR code in an area, and I recently saw this in Dubai, what they have is a QR code in an area where you rate your experience in an area. Was it clean? Was it easy to find things? How are directions? Things in that line. So there are a lot of cases that show how digital technology and data have been customized to fit a country's specific needs. And I think that's really where Ghana also needs to tailor-make data and digital technology to feed your purpose and to speak to your needs. So it's valuable to look at these other examples, but it's always important to customize. I hope that answers your question. I see we have more questions. I'll start here then.
Okay, thank you. I am Patricia Bani from Word Multimedia. We are more into media, but we fuse it with tourism. Before we came into the space, speaking for myself, all you know is you go to one location. I didn't even know there was something called virtual tourism. All I know is you pick a car, you go to a location, you go see them. And I like to jump everywhere. So when I go tell people, hey, I'm here, then they say, oh, how do we see it? So we started virtual tourism. And again, December in GH, which is a blessing to all of us. Most stakeholders are here. Last year we had a meeting to review December in GH. Most of the things that the diasporans spoke about is the digitalization of tourism. They didn't know where to sign up their QR codes. They didn't know prices of goods and everything. The visit Ghana.com and other .coms were down. They could not digitalize. So this is good for us. Policymakers are here. They will make December in GH amazing for us. My question to Mastercard, please. I learned from my boss, you issue cards, that's credit money, and then people pay in installment. I want to bring it to tourism. Do you have any kind of package where my market mostly are the aspirants? They like to pay installments, bit to the time. So in my imagination, by the time December is coming, somebody should start paying for my packages way before it gets to December, so I'm secure. And I know I'm not just jumping about making noise, I'm making money. Do you have any kind of package where I can have subscribers sign up to you, pay installments for their December and other packages? That's for Mastercard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so the first thing that I want to say is I completely agree with your point, and I think it's a very valuable proposition to put forward. I do, however, have to flag that we are not from the Mastercard Foundation. We're from CENFRI, so we are in partnership with the Mastercard Foundation, and also there's a split between Mastercard and Mastercard Mastercard Foundation. What I can do definitely is we can put you in contact with Mastercard Foundation and take it to them, because like we've said, this project is really the first leg. They are wanting to do a lot more in the tourism space, so these kind of value propositions are excellent to take directly to them.
I think the other thing to add is we have done quite a lot of work in the financial sector, and there are really innovative payment solutions that offer these. So payment gateways, I don't know, I can't give you an example of someone who specifically offers that service, but I think engaging with early, like paytechs, fintechs, who are in this space, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is highlighting this is the problem that we have, or there's something we need a solution for in those tech spaces. That is not a hard thing to solve. Like, that's just a technology that can be solved. It's just, I think, most likely fintechs are not aware that's a problem that we need solved.
Thank you very much. This is not a question, but more or less like a proposition for all of us who are in the space, and the fact that data really is a challenge to come by. And just because sometimes sharing the data, people feel they are too vulnerable to share the data. But I think from where we sit and looking at what is happening in other countries that are reaping huge benefits from the sector, the ability to gather data is usually most easiest from online or digital platforms. And usually things like booking systems being used are always channels to really allow government to gather the data much more faster and cheaper. But then what also happens to encourage private sector to go that route is that those platforms offer much more affordable compared to you walking in to pay. And I think it's a drive from government's part. I stand to be corrected, and perhaps maybe a proposition to government to look at this route and encourage those who would want to have an online presence or use a government portal to provide their services for tourists. Once that proposition is made and government can deploy a platform, then you know that when you're rendering a service as a private sector operator on that platform, your cost becomes cheaper, but then it's also a way for government to be able to get the data for you. Things like how many people are booking a hotel, how many people are paying for a particular kind of service, where are they visiting the most. You know, this is something that I think we need to be thinking through, because you go to platforms like Momondo, Booking, hotel costs are cheaper, flight bookings are cheaper, the tourism packages are cheaper. But when you go in person to a hotel to book, the cost is always higher. So a lot more people tend to use those platforms to book for such services. And that's a way for government to actually get the data. So I think CENFRI, as a proposition to you in terms of your recommendations, look at something like this and bring it to the fore of government. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I'll only briefly respond. It's a very good point, and I fully agree. I think two parts. I think first is making sure that government, particularly like the regulator, works with the existing platforms to ensure that that data is used. And I think GTA is in discussion with Airbnb, for example, to leverage that information. That's the first. And the second, though, is I didn't actually fully articulate it when I was speaking earlier, but there is an opportunity to digitalize the reporting process for annual reporting. And I think that, so to improve the efficiency and ease of compliance for private sector actors, but also to make better use of some of the information that is already collected by the private sector, but it's not fully making its way to the GCA. Like one practical example that we find, and it's just an example, but is many tour guides already develop quite detailed reports after each tour that they run. And that's often reported to the tour operators that they're contracted by. And it is, as far as I understand, it is a regulatory requirement to do those reports after each tour. But that information is not getting through to the regulator. So it's not getting through to inform public sector intervention, despite them having actually really useful feedback because they're the ones engaging on the ground with tourists who are experiencing these on a day-to-day basis. And so very simple initial adoption of technologies like allowing those reports to be uploaded online is one way in which, like, a starting point to ensure that there is greater automation and greater accessibility of those kind of reporting things. So I fully agree with your point there.
Thank you. We'll take the next 5. Let's take them in block, and please go straight to the point so that we don't want to keep long here. By 12:30, we should be out of this place. We have our lunch and then we are on. So we take 5 and then we so Madam.
My name is Florida from Heritage Food and Drinks Association. I cook abobo and capro, a small scale. I can't read and write. I want to go online. How do I go about it?
Definitely. I like it. Simple, straightforward.
I want to contribute a little bit to the discussions on data collection and all of that. So when you were speaking, my good friend, you made mention of the relevance of data, particularly quantitative data and its abundance. And that, especially our friend from the development, Gezali, spoke about quantitative data and how abundant it is. I think the big deal has to do with the qualitative view of the issues and how people experience hotels and the travel industry and all of that, the related industry with respect to tourism, and experience it and want to come back again to your very facility. Loyalty and customer advocacy and all of those outcomes, right, has to do with the qualitative bit of the conversation or data collection. But the difficulty has to do with how the questions are set. If a young graduate do not take his research method seriously, and you recruit such a graduate to come and do data collection for you, plus market and other issues, then you are doomed. Because the very beginning of collecting data is how the question is set, especially the qualitative bit of the conversation. So I want to encourage us strongly that in recruiting our young graduates, we should try and tease out their research method skills and how they are able to set basic data collection questions. Otherwise, we can talk about data, but we will never ever get quality data to make informed marketing decisions. Thank you.
So, in other words, what he's saying is that he's a consultant, consulting to get to your data. Question there for you. So let's take 3 more.
Okay, so mine is more or less, again, a bit of an encouragement also to all of us, because you see, it's one thing to provide information, skill, and knowledge about the digital world. It's another thing also to now show commitment. And that's where I want to come in. Commitment. Reform. You are aware. Sometimes when research tools are put together, for stakeholders to spend about 2-3 minutes and fill in information, they're not ready. But the same person will be complaining that this is this, this is that, government this, but at the end of the day, when we are made to provide commitment to information, then there is reluctancy. So I believe that in between the digital training and skill and all of that, attitudinal change also is another key area that we need to look at and then improve upon. Otherwise, we are going nowhere with this type of training. So this is also something that we need also to look at.
Very, very important. Please, if you want to use the washroom, when you come out, it's right here. And then it's here. So you have male and female. When you get in, if the markers are not straightforward, so careful you don't go to wrong place.
Okay, mine is simple and straightforward. I think I'll tackle the comment. I'll add something to the Aboboy seller. Is how data is collected, I think, should be customized to suit the kind of people and the era we are. Just like my senior colleague said, people are, as of now, the attention span of the youth is like
like a minute or 2 minutes, they change to something else. So if you bring a questionnaire in 2023 to collect data from the youth, forget it. It has to be in a way they want. And the boy seller, collecting data, we are not used to using USSD shortcode. It's really not normal. But the boy seller is used to using *170 something hash to take money from a certain financial institution. So if data collection to the boy seller, which they already know, is in that format, then it might also encourage them to do it. Thank you.
So I think we have basically one question. I'll take one more and then CENFRI or okay. No more? Okay.
Thank you. So in the presentation, you spoke about creating a centralized system for guidance in tourism, and then you proposed websites. But I feel websites are limited, so we should why not look at destination management systems, which is a broader way of integrating major tourism platforms. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I think I would like to make a contribution. Whilst data is very important for us as stakeholders, we also have to be mindful of the protection part. How are we protecting our customers' data? As much as we want it, we also have to protect it. We have to be mindful of the Data Protection Act of 2012 in Ghana, that as the person has a right to either give it to you or not. And once you have the passport bio data page of a person, a customer, you also have to have the mind or the energy to protect that information. Thank you.
Thank you. I think dominantly it's just contribution, but I don't know if you want to react to any particular one.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, I mean, I'll start with the last one. I think that's relatively straightforward. Is the Data Protection Act protects against personal information being shared. What that means is any data that is collected or shared needs to have the consent of the individual if it is information that is personally identifiable. So if you can identify who the person is who gave the information, then it should follow the requirements of the Data Protection Act. Now, some information that we're collecting is personally identifiable, but for the most part, that's not the part we're interested in. Like, we don't really care, like, I'm not saying rude, but like, we don't really care what the name of the tourist who's coming to us is. We don't really care what their ID number is. What we want to know is how many people came, where did they come from, what was their experience, like what feedback did they have for us, you know, all of those types of things. So I think it's certainly, it's always important to be conscious of the Data Protection Act and making sure that we are not contravening it. But I think in terms of what we're talking about here, it's quite easy to extract the useful information without using personally identifiable data. I'll respond to a couple other questions I noted down. So I think some were comments, and I think good points. I think the destination management system, I think, is a good suggestion. I think, you know, we spoke about websites, but we're not limited to those. I think, you know, it's more that there's an evolution that can take place as well, and also what is most fit for purpose for a given context, a given sector, a given set of actors. So, if you want to,
yeah. I'll add to it. I think there are also kind of specialized opportunities for private sector players to get involved, whether it's kind of a specialized platform that is tiered to a specific need. So whether it be tour guides, for example, they might have kind of individual needs that a platform can facilitate better than a DMO, and kind of managing those specific needs through this digital platform, whether it be onboarding tour guides or listing relevant kind of tours on this platform. Kind of that specialized need would be facilitated through kind of the private sector in a more efficient and easier manner than DMOs.
And then your question about the data. So I think that's a very, very valid point. I think, first of all, we spoke a fair amount about quantitative data. we're definitely not limiting data to quantitative data. Qualitative data is incredibly important, and many of the insights that we can glean can only come from qualitative data. Feedback data is one of the most important forms of data to inform how we improve experience for customers. In terms of methodology of how you collect that, I mean, I think you have more experience on that, but yes, I mean, we do a lot of data collection in our work, and certainly the robustness of it is important. I think there is an argument to say, like, starting by collecting something is better than nothing, but in time, for sure, I think the robustness of it, if you want to actually extract robust insights that inform decisions, is important, and particularly if it's at a national level, then it's very important. Yeah, and then I think your question about if you can't read and write, how you go online, I think is a tricky one. I don't have an easy solution for that, but I think that there is potentially opportunities of looking at how to partner with different people. So, for instance, one of the things that we've discussed as an opportunity potentially is with the growing Airbnb services sector or Airbnb sector, that many Airbnbs, because it requires capital investment, it requires you to own an existing premises. It's often older people who own those Airbnbs who have the capital to inform, not exclusively, but often. And an opportunity maybe to provide support services that help to facilitate management of those Airbnbs. It's fairly well established. I think here and in many countries have management services of a range of Airbnb properties. So one possibility is therefore to also consider that kind of opportunity. Is there an opportunity for support services to provide, to traditional caterers, for example, to serve a range of different traditional caterers by providing them with an online presence, managing their social media, for example, is at least a way in which to overcome challenges if you're unable to directly access online. And in some cases, I think it's probably more efficient as well if you have kind of centralized services that can provide similar service to a large number of businesses.
Okay. Last session 5, we take 5, is 12 o'clock. I'll start with Dr. Jabbar. Doc.
Good. Is it afternoon now? Good
Yes.
afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
I'm coming from the Forest Grower Association, and our regulators at Bank of Ghana, and they are very hard on us for data. By the first 5 days of the month, you must send all your data to them, otherwise you pay a penalty. The penalty is not small.
It's no joke.
Every month you don't pay, you pay 500 Ghana, and it continues like that. Unfortunately for us, it's good to send data because they need it for all sorts of things. But some of the questions we ask are very intrusive, and you've had problems of our customers. Those days we used to ask for house number, and then you say, if I leave this place and I'm robbed, is it you who has sent the arm robber or something? So, and then immediately he leaves my facility. Just across the road, there's somebody sitting there who doesn't ask for any, who doesn't ask any questions, and therefore we kept losing a lot of business. Now, after a period, we started the bureaus in the 1988. We are now 35 years old, so we have moved on. But we are still having the same problem because now we need to provide your national ID card before. Some bureaus may not ask, but Bank of Ghana send people around all the time. So it's good, but we have that problem of the other market just across the road, the para market. I've been to so many places, and if you went to South Africa, you must definitely go to a forest bureau change your money, and they'll ask for your passport and so on. Because they don't have somebody sitting by the roadside close to the place. So that has been a difficulty. The questions you are asking members or our customers are very intrusive. They don't want to answer those questions, but we must do business anyway. So that is our difficulty. Thank you very much.
Policymakers, is to you. Thank you,
I just
Doc.
wanted to speak on the issue of one who can't read or write wants to go online.
Okay.
From my experience, one of the things that I've seen that is really big about discovery of businesses is Google, and especially Google Maps and Google Street View. There are a lot of businesses run by people who cannot read and write that are on Google Maps.
Okay.
And there are reviews from real customers. There are people contributing images and things to these listings, which the business owners themselves don't know who. I am part of the verified contributors that do this for Google as well. And one of the things I've realized is even if you don't do it, someone will do it for you, right? But the problem now is that when someone does it for you and you don't own your business, other people come and change the information on your listing. So right now the issue is people go online, they see the business, even if it's run by legit companies. They see the business, but the business does not necessarily own their listing on Google, which will come first. Google they'll put here before they'll put any other website on the side, right? And people are putting fake numbers there, people are making orders and are buying from fraudulent numbers. And it's also now destroying the reputation of these businesses online. So in some sense, someone will put you online, but you also have to do the extra work of looking for yourself online and claiming your own business. Now you don't necessarily have to go and do the website, right? Sometimes Google even goes as far as creating a website for you with your own information and stuff. So you will be there somehow, but you just have to pay attention and then be there and own it yourself. So that's all I have to say. Yeah.
Okay, so you need to get somebody, if you can't read or write, get somebody to do that for you, because like he's saying, whether you like it or not, somebody will do that for you, and it might not be in your interest. So it's interesting. Yes, I think we'll take last two.
Okay, thank you very much. I think at this stage, talking about data, it will equally be important for us to be intentional about data security. By that I mean cyber security, so that the information we provide, whether online or face-to-face, physically, doesn't get into the wrong hands. And so we need to take that seriously. That notwithstanding, for the SMEs that are basically having the challenge of getting online and all others, African Center for Business Incubation is privileged to be aligned with Scientific Animation Without Borders, where we develop training materials in our local language, and then it is animated. So even without understanding the French language or any other Spanish language, you could, on your phone, log onto the app, and then in your own language, the Chi, or the Ebe, or the Dagomba, you are educated on what needs to be done or what you want to do. So this is an opportunity for us all to take advantage and get ourselves upskilled so that we can face the challenge that is ahead of us in terms of collation and using of data. Thank you.
Awesome. I think that's good. Yeah, great. Okay, I'll come back to you.
My name is Ivan Gale, the CEO of Dell Family Law, National Secretary of Ghana Digitalisation. I heard my brother was mentioning about our local language. How many of us can read our local language? None of us, because in our schools, they don't teach us our local language.
Another issue. Yeah, so it depends on where you attend school.
But it's not all of them
Yeah.
that can read the local
Yeah.
local language.
Yeah.
So I don't buy that.
Okay. So I think the issue is those who cannot read and write the Queen's English. So the alternative is, because if you cannot read and write, the idea is that at least you understand your local language. So that's alternative. You use the local language. Animation is there to tell you in Ewe, in Fante, in Ga, in a language that you can understand. And then you follow the animation. What the animation is doing, you just follow. And then you see, we have come to a point in our lives that you can't do much without this social media, digitization, the digital economy. You have to. You have no option. You somehow must learn how you can operate, or you can put yourself out there. So we have to find out, how do we help them? How do we help them? Really, for me, that is the question. And he gives a good, and I'm sure the gentleman here, they can also support us. For me, that is why some of these engagements are important. It gives us an idea of where the industry is going. And the gentleman here is also working on an app that will also change the face of, he's already done it. It will be out very soon. That will change the face of tourism in Ghana. I can assure you. I can assure you. So we are getting somewhere. And somebody talked about sensitization. I think was we need to prepare our minds. We need to prepare our minds, and we need to be doing some of these things. And GHATOF, sensitization. You need to be sensitizing your members. Start putting workshops together. Yes, and be working on that, because we don't want to leave anyone behind. The sustainable development goals. We don't want to leave anyone behind. So somebody wants to also talk about education, tourism, or tourism education. Which one? How it's linked with Dr. Doreen Allenson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Doreen Akumyo. So I think amongst all the things that have been mentioned, academic tourism was not part, I'm sure it was part of the research, but I think it's a field that's worth exploring, or it's a field that's worth building up, because unlike Ghana in December, academic tourism, you have people coming for exchange programs all throughout the year.
Okay.
You have people coming in for conferences, for training programs. So I realized that for most of them, it's either the contact, it's in direct contact with the university or the school, or it's with a program that does exchange, but they usually don't have it in association with the tourism where they're able to explore. So lots of them they come and do the education part, but then they miss out on the tourism part. So I think it's a very good area to explore, because we have a lot of people coming to study in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was at a meeting, what she's saying, where when the child labor thing came and had to do with cocoa, and they were contemplating on sanctioning Ghana because of child labor and other things. And there was a gentleman at that level who had come to Ghana as on an internship, and enjoyed the village life and paid particular attention in the cocoa growing areas. So he understood what culture was, involving children, going to farm and that kind of thing. He was the guy that saved Ghana. He was the guy that saved Ghana. So if he had not come to Ghana to do internship and pay particular attention to the cocoa growing areas and our culture, probably we would have been sanctioned because of this child labor and other things. So educational tourism is extremely important, and we need to pay particular attention to that as well. I think, okay, so I'll give the last respect to the small president, and she's a woman as well, so I'm gender biased. So
Thank you very
you're
much.
welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm learning a lot. So with what I would say, I have a question too, but what I would say is, you made mention of encouraging innovations, and when it comes to the students, they have this innovative minds, but the challenge here is who would hold their hands probably to lead them to whatever interest or whatever they want to do. So as the president, we are in for partnership, for collaborative, and even organized workshops. So we need my honorable members, the professionals, those who are in the training space. I know most of them are here. We want to partner with you. So we organize workshops for our students. Probably that workshop could help to be 4 people. My honorable member, he also mentioned about agritourism. There's this guy that talks highly of agritourism. But one thing I realized is he's not having anyone to probably pick him and nurture him. So if we have this trainers coming down to our school, looking for the student leaders to help, we want to put this program down. So where do we start from? The students will be able to organize their own colleagues, and then we'll be able to share and nurture some of the youth. So we don't always rely on the government to give us the work, but we can start somewhere. And also, you talked about short courses to digitize the students. If you could share some links to them, so it will be easy to get access to. And then whilst students always surf through the internet, they could use that as an opportunity to learn. Thank you very much.
Can we end here? Yes? Okay, awesome. So what we are going to do is to allow GHATOF and CENFRI and okay, to make final I think GHATOF CENFRI should be okay.
Maybe let's respond to some of the questions.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So I'll start with the first question around the Forex Bureau. I think it's an excellent point to raise. And the place where I want to start is whatever data is collected needs to be collected for a purpose. It's not a checkbox approach of just saying, what's everything we can collect, let's just throw it all in there. It needs to result in an impact, or we're measuring something. It needs to be an indicator of something. The next point I'm going to make is, because the question's from a Forex Bureau, I'm going to rely a little bit more on my work in the financial sector. And one thing that we do see there is a lot of these requirements are set by your financial regulator as part of Know Your Customer and customer due diligence process as a means to verify a customer's identity. And a lot of these measures are in place as a means to mitigate against risk associated with money laundering, terror financing, proliferation financing, fraud, and things in that line. And they make sense. But what we see is that some of the requirements, unfortunately not national ID, that's always a standard one, but some of the requirements no longer serve as much of a value proposition in terms of verifying a customer's ID, like address. We have that problem in South Africa as well. To send money out of South Africa, you have to show proof of address. That does not say that does not indicate your level of risk as an individual. So what I will say with this is that there's a lot of opportunity to innovate within your existing financial regulations to maybe reduce the requirements or simplify the means by which these data points are collected. So I'm not going to run through it here because I think it's slightly off topic, but I'd be more than happy to share our existing work on that with you. We recently did a study in Ghana, and it could be beneficial.
Yeah, and you can advocate to the Bank of Ghana to remove some of those requirements. You can tell them we told you.
GHATOF advocacy.
I'm going to speak to the point raised by the gentleman here on the Google business profile. I mean, just to emphasize, it's critical, and I mean, something we've seen from the research was that less than 50% of tourism businesses in Ghana haven't verified their profile. And again, I mean, that's crucial. So you aren't getting any notifications when someone comments or provides feedback. And as mentioned before, that's an extremely valuable form of data that you can use to enhance customer experience. The other thing is, as you rightfully said, I mean, it's important to verify the information that's listed on your business profile to ensure that it's valid and that it really does represent what your business is trying to do. And this is something we'll touch on in some of the trainings next week on the approach to doing that. So yeah, really valuable point. And then I'll also just quickly respond to the academic tourism point. This is something we did look at, and obviously it's a really valuable source of tourism. We did see that it made up kind of a relatively small share of inbound tourism, but there certainly is opportunity for growth, and given the wide variety of universities within Ghana, there's significant opportunity there. And obviously, kind of when these individuals go back to the countries through which where they came from originally, there's also the opportunity to kind of spread the message of Ghana as a destination.
Okay, so I'll invite Dr. Kwesi Esin to give his final remarks, and then afterwards we will have CENFRI, and then give you some information.
And thank you, all of you, for those insightful comments, suggestions, and then etc. All this. Let me say that in partnership, as in Ghana, partnership, CENFRI, African Tourism Research Network, Mastercard Foundation, CDC. What we are seeking to do is to scale, rescale, and then upscale by improving on our business competitiveness of all the industry players, our ability to compete not only locally or domestic funds, but also regionally and globally. That's all that we are seeking to do. So the sum total of all these are in line with what I earlier said about the UN top priorities, top priorities when it comes to tourism development and growth. That is scaling innovation and then digital transformation. So we thank you all for coming, and special thanks to our CENFRI team as well. But let me be quick to add this. The digital skills in our curriculum that was earlier mentioned is something that we have taken it on board seriously. And coming from the sector skills body within a project division in Ghana here, we have standards that we are developing towards reskilling and then upscaling industry players. And even for those of our youth coming through the educational sector, pursuing tourism and hospitality courses. So we developed these standards.
The same grace carry each of us that we will be able to participate in this program that will help the industry. As we are moving from here to lunch, whatever we shall eat or drink, we sanctify it for the stomach. We also pray for travel mercies from here to various places that we shall reach to our final destination safely and successfully. This is what we are asking, Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. We are done. So we'll go out there and take a picture. The ladies.
To the man that gave me life. There is life out there, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoy. Everybody will talk very fast. I don't want nobody to demand that give me life. There is life out there, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoy. Everybody talk very fast.
Kill Soboma, I dey try to buy moto.